Pokemon games always encourage trading with friends in order to complete the Pokédex. However, what if that was our only way of constructing a team? Today we're going to find out how easy it is to beat Pokemon Sword and Shield with only in-game traded Pokemon. Basically put, the minute I have access to my first in-game trade, I can no longer use my starter and can only use the Pokemon traded to me by NPCs. Thankfully, there's quite a lot in Sword and Shield, but I think that the first and third gyms are really going to be massive brick walls for me, and that I'm going to have to grind to feel slightly confident. Rule-wise, I'm not allowing myself to use items in battle. The only exceptions here are that I need to throw Pokeballs in order to catch a Pokemon that's required for a trade, and I'm allowed to use held items as well. I'm also limiting myself to the base game trades, so nothing within the Isle of Armor. And I'm also not going to be using things like the Digging Duo or Pokejobs in order to find certain items I need, like Evolution Stones. If there is an item that I'm looking for, I have to wait until it's actually available as a findable item in the overworld. I am allowing myself to use Pokemon Camp though, since I need it to help boost friendship, since there's 2 Pokemon that need to evolve via friendship throughout this adventure. I was also thinking about maybe taking away my ability to Dynamax, but I'm not masochistic enough yet. Let me know in the comments if I should allow Dynamaxing in future Sword and Shield runs. So I start off my adventure by picking Grookey, the best starter, and naming him Subscribe, which you should totally do. This leaves Hop with Sobble, the worst starter to ever exist. Tell me I'm wrong in the comment section below. We have our first battle with Hop, and we end up hotboxing in the Slumbering Weald with some Red Wolf while trying to save a Wooloo. After meeting Sonia, the Bae of the game, and Professor Magnolia to get our Pokedex and Dynamax Bangle, we take the train to the wild area and we can finally start to work towards getting our first team member. Here I catch a Bunnelby and head to the Motostoke Pokemon Center to trade it for a Squovet named Cheekers at level 10. Thankfully, Squovet's level does not match the level of the Bunnelby we gave, which was originally the gimmick in Generations 1 to 4. Generation 5 made it so that all tradable Pokemon are at a set level, and this is going to be a big saving grace for me with a particular Pokemon that we get later on in the adventure. Squovet is okay. It's not going to be great for us, but its main appeal is that it has a massive HP stat when it evolves into Greedent, which isn't for another 14 levels. However, it does lose a lot of that potential tankiness thanks to it having a mild nature, which lowers its defense to increase its special attack. He's going to be our only companion until we get to the first gym, so I trained to level 12 since I know that we've got a bit of an onslaught of enemies coming up. I need to be careful not to get too over-leveled though, because I don't want to risk Squovet disobeying me. If a traded Pokemon gets a little too high-leveled, it'll disobey frequently until you get your next gym badge, which raises the standard level that they can obey you till. Normally this wouldn't be that big of an issue, but traded Pokemon receive 1.5 times the experience, so they'll be gaining levels more frequently, which makes this challenge a lot harder. I make it a priority to also shake every berry tree I see while grinding. I'm not sure if I'm going to hold on to this move the entire game, but Squovet and Greedent have a signature move called Stuffed Cheeks, which has them eat their held berry to raise their defense by 2 stages, which can help offset their lowered defense stat. However, depending on how high our special attack is, we might also be able to take advantage of Belch, a 120 base poison type move that only works the turn after we eat a berry. It's super circumstantial, and Greedent doesn't even learn the move until level 55, but it could open up some type versatility amongst the team. After the opening ceremony, we're challenged by Hop to another battle, and we are at a severe disadvantage here. He's already got half of his team by this point, and I just have Squovet. I'm hesitant to go for Stuffed Cheeks because I know that his Rookity has Power Trip, a move that does more damage the more your stats are raised. I don't have to worry too much about that right now though, because his Sobble hits like a truck, and we do almost nothing thanks to Wooloo's Growl. I guess I have to go back to grinding. I do a lot of my grinding in Motostoke though, but I don't really have anything right now that gives me good special defense EVs. I do, however, fight a lot of Choodle which give me attack IVs, so maybe next time I can deal enough damage to knock out Wooloo in 2 hits. Another option that I have is learning Stockpile and Swallow at level 15, which boosts both of my defense stats, as well as provides some really reliable recovery. But if that doesn't work, I might have to grind up to level 20 to learn Body Slam, but then we risk being a level away from Disobedience before we even get to the next route. and we have a required battle other than Hop coming up. Second round against Hop, and we set up some stockpiles, but his Wooloo growls 3 times, so when Sobble comes out, we do next to nothing. We got past Sobble, but next out is Rookity, so I heal myself with Swallow. We do lose our defense boosts, but he just kept on going for Leer. He pecked me once, but that was it. Okay. Right after we hit that brick wall, though, we immediately hit another. There's a girl on Route 3 with a Pancham, a fighting type with Circle Throw, which easily 2-shots us at our current level. Second try, we set up a stockpile, but she just kept going for Tackle. Okay. Finishing up Route 3, we get to the first Galar Cave, and Cheekers is level 19, so I'm getting a little worried about Disobedience. Towards the end of the cave, we battle Beatty, who specializes in Psychic types, but thankfully we have Bite, so he's not that bad. We do lose, though, because his Gothita hit a little too hard with Psybeam, but second time around, he's a lot easier. We didn't do as much damage this time thanks to Gothita going for Tickle, which lowers our attack and defense, but we still made it out with a little bit under half our health. Getting to Route 4, we catch the next Pokemon for our trade, a Galarian Meowth for a Cantonian Meowth named Cash at Turfield's gym. He's level 18 with a timid nature. It's another pretty bad nature since it raises his sky-high speed and lowers our physical attack, which is our best stat offensively. Meowth and Persian aren't as great offensive threats as they used to be back in Red and Blue, where speed stats determined critical hits, but they can sort of make up for it thanks to their ability in Technician, which increases the power of moves under 60. We also get Nasty Plot, which eventually makes our special attacks deal even more damage. The only move that Cash starts out with that's over 60 base power is Last Resort, a 140 base power move that can only be used after using every other move in your moveset. However, I'm hoping that we can make good use out of Swift, which we got at the beginning of the game, and that should be impacted by Technician. So I decided to get rid of Scratch 3.0, since Payday is the same power, but we just get some more money out of it. And looking back on it, that joke was not as good as I thought it would be, but we also grind Cash up to level 19 on trainers that I didn't fight yet. After we finish grinding, we head for Milo's gym, and I'm honestly scared. His 2 Pokemon, Gossifleur and Eldegoss, are really tanky. They might have the Cotton Down ability, which makes us slower every time we attack them, and they are really high leveled. I might have to rely on the raw power of Last Resort as a powerful max strike in order to deal the most damage to Eldegoss. I didn't fight any of the optional trainers in the gym because we're already super close to Disobedience, but let's see how Milo goes. First up is Gossifleur. We outspeed and hit with Swift, but it does a little under half, and I panicked because then I realized that I never healed Cash before the fight. But Cash got to level 20, and Cheekers is just about to reach level 21, so thankfully, we can send him out to fight Eldegoss without having to worry about Disobedience. I immediately Dynamax and go for the Max Strike, but unfortunately, he is faster, so we might be in a little bit of trouble. Eldegoss's Max Strike does a ton, and ours does absolutely nothing, so I'm not really feeling too confident about this. He goes for a Max Overgrowth, which gives us a small progressive heal, while we go for another Strike, hoping that we can outspeed him next turn. But we're still too slow. I'm hoping Cash can take him out, but he does not have a lot of health left. Eldegoss hits us with a Leafage, which leaves us at 1 HP, but ultimately Cash went down. Let's try actually healing Cash and trying that again. Second try on, I start off with Bite, hoping that it flinches, but no dice. I go for Payday afterward, but Round leaves us hurting a bit. Thankfully, we're able to take it down with a Swift, and then we're able to go for a really strong Last Resort on Eldegoss. I didn't think it would do a lot due to Eldegoss getting tons of HP from Dynamaxing, but ultimately my plan here is to max guard on Eldegoss's last turn of Dynamaxing to save some health on Cheekers and then deal tons of damage on our last turn. Thankfully, we outsped and do a truckload with Max Strike, but Magical Leaf does equally as much. Thankfully, we're able to outspeed and take out Eldegoss this time, and that gives us the Grass Badge. With that, our Pokemon can go to a max level of 30 without disobeying us. Next, I run to Route 5 and pick up the baby Toxel at the daycare, as we're going to need that for a trade later on. Hop challenges us soon, so I also grind up Squovet to level 24, so that he can evolve before I try anything. While grinding, I made sure to catch him in Chino for our next trade. But I happened to also run into a shiny Esper of all things. It was literally the first one I ever found in this game, so I'm super stoked that we found it full odds. It sucks that I can't use it for the run, but I'm definitely gonna put this thing in Pokemon Home. After some grinding, Cheekers evolves into Greedent, and we already get to see the immense power he has as we battle Hop. He sends out Wooloo like he always does, but now that we have Cash with Swift, we don't really have to worry about his growls or high defense. He's even faster than Corvusquire as well, so we can take him out before Emo Gex comes out. He's incredibly easy though, because for some reason he thought Bind was the best way to take me out. Now, we might have been a little over-leveled for that, but I really didn't want to take any chances, given how tough that first rival battle was with just Squovet. Once we reach Hulbury, I quickly book it for the backpacker at the picnic area. She's looking for a Minccino to trade for Candy Floss, the Cottony, which is the grass and fairy type. She's level 23 with a modest nature, a great nature for once, and the Prankster ability, giving priority to status moves such as Growth and Poison Powder. With a Sunstone, it's going to evolve into Whimsicott. It's not really an offensive powerhouse, but it does get some pretty incredible moves such as Moonblast, Energy Ball, and Hurricane all at level 1. Cottony is going to be our saving grace for this upcoming gym since it's a water-type gym as well. After finding Nessa, the other Bay of the game, we head into the water gym and begin the reign of tyranny that is Candy Floss the Cottony. And I also have a little bit of leeway here since the highest level that we can get to without having to worry about disobedience is 30, and I doubt Cottony will get that high. Time to go up against Nessa, and honestly, I am not worried at all. Candy Floss is just about to hit level 24 to learn Giga Drain, and I wholly plan on setting up Growth before doing anything so I can one-shot sweep everybody. Surprisingly, we didn't take out Goldeen after 2 Growths, but upon knocking it out, we get Giga Drain and get rid of Razor Leaf. Arrokuda is out next, and it's also taken down with a Giga Drain, and out comes her ace, Dreadnought, a water and rock type. I am so confident in our damage output, and since we're quad effective and we're pretty speedy, I'm not even going to Dynamax. I'm feeling pretty confident. Yeah, that didn't work out as planned. So I send out Greedent and immediately go for the Max Darkness, since it's our only neutral hit that we can go for. Dreadnought doesn't take a lot, but I apply the same strategy I did with Milo and Max Guard on his last Dynamax turn to save some health and go for another Max Darkness right after. Sadly, Cheekers is taken out, but thanks to Max Darkness lowering Dreadnought's special defense by 2 stages, I can confidently go into Cash and have him go for Swift to take him out. Okay, lesson learned. Cockiness will get you nowhere in Pokemon Challenge runs. I'll keep that in mind for next time. Next, we head into the second Galar Mine in order to find Kabu, the 3rd gym leader, but we get challenged by Bede before we can make much progress. Solosis goes down after a few bites, but sadly Cash gets taken down by Bede's Gothita. Cheekers comes out to take her down though, but Hatenna comes out and hits a Psybeam, but Cheekers is honestly just way too bulky. Even Galarian Ponyta, his newest member, is incredibly easy. I'm getting a bit concerned about Cash though. I might want to consider evolving him into Persian before we fight Kabu, but I have some other things that I need to get done first. We eventually encounter some Team Yell Grunts, but they're pretty easy aside from the fact that Hop goes for the right moves on the wrong goddamn Pokemon! Why is the AI so bad in this game? Eventually we meet Kabu, and we're supposed to go to Motostoke in order to prepare for the gym battle. But I'm worried about it, to be honest with you. Kabu has 3 fully evolved Pokemon. Ninetales, a very special-oriented attacker, Arcanine, one of the most balanced Pokemon in the game, and his ace, Gigantamax Centiskorch, whose Centiferno G-Max move can do residual damage to my entire team. So I decided to do some grinding, and in the meantime, Cash evolved into Persian. His offensive stats aren't stellar, but we do learn Power Gem upon evolution, which I completely forgot about. So now, we actually have a pretty good answer to Kabu's team. It's a shame that it just doesn't get that Technician boost, though. I also make sure to head to the Dusty Bowl to pick up a Sunstone for Cottony. I doubt Whimsicott will be useful for the Fire Gym, but like I mentioned, he does get Hurricane, which is a rather inaccurate but powerful flying-type move that can come in handy. After taking way too long to find a Sunstone, we're finally able to get Whimsicott, and I immediately beeline for the Motostoke Pokemon Center to have her remember Moonblast, Hurricane, and Energy Ball. After entering the Budew Inn, we're challenged by our 3rd rival of the game, Marnie. She leads off with Krogunk, which is pretty scary, considering that Whimsicott is quad weak to poison, and Cash and Cheekers are weak to fighting types. She's still pretty easy though, after landing a Hurricane on Krogunk, and then Moonblasting her, Scraggy, and Morpeko into Oblivion. We get to the Fire-type gym, and I give Cheekers and Cash some Citrus Berries, and let's see how Kabu goes. I lead off with Cash as he leads off with Ninetales, who goes down to Cash's Swift and Power Gems. Next out is Arcanine, so I switch into Cheekers. Not only does Arcanine have Intimidate though, which lowers our attack by 1 stage, he also has Will-O-Wisp, which drops our attack by 2 more stages. So from here on, it's gonna take 6 Body Slams to take it out. And we end up using our Citrus Berry Cheek Pouch combo a little earlier than expected. Arcanine finally goes down though to a bunch of Body Slams that didn't even paralyze once. Really? Really? Why could that not happen? Next out is Centiskorch, and I decide to keep Cheekers in so that Kabu can burn off a Dynamax turn. I really need to be careful of his max Flutterby though. If Persian gets hit by that, his special attack is gonna drop. He does go for the Centiferno though, which really is not good. I bring out Cash and immediately Dynamax for the Rockfall, and we don't have a lot of health, so I'm hoping that we can take him out. We thankfully get a critical hit, and it just barely takes him out, although we do set up a Sandstorm. Just as I'm thinking I lost, the Sandstorm actually manages to take out Centiskorch. I was astonished by that. I really don't know what would have happened if we did not get that critical hit. With 3 badges in tow, I beeline straight for Hammerlocke, and on my way I catch a Maractus that I'll need for the next trade in the Town of the 4th Gym. Upon arriving, we actually can get our next team member. Remember that Toxel that we got on Route 5? We can actually trade it in Hammerlocke for a Togepi named Snips at level 25. Now, he isn't great since it's a baby Pokemon, but once we can get it to Togekiss with Friendship and a Shiny Stone, this thing is going to do wonders for us. Plus, it's got a timid nature just like Cash, which boosts our speed and lowers our physical attack, and that is a perfect nature for a Togekiss. The earliest Shiny Stone that we can get though is on Route 8, right before the 6th gym, so we've got a ways to go until we can get Togekiss. Right as soon as I get Snips though, I max out his happiness and evolve him into Togetic. It takes a while, but thanks to a particular NPC in Hammerlocke, we can actually check Togepi's happiness really easily. So I do what any normal person would do and camp outside this kid's house and break in every time I want to check my Togepi's happiness. Snips finally evolves, but due to that friendship boost, he gets an even higher amount of experience, so I'm fully expecting him to disobey me at some point in this game whenever we need to grind. Next, we head on to Route 6 in order to pick up a Galarian Yamask for a future trade, and eventually arrive in Stow-On-Side, where we can get our next companion. Here we need to trade a Maractus for an Impidimp named Peepers, which is actually Shield exclusive. You can still trade with the guy in Sword, but he's going to give you a Hatena instead. Impidimp is going to be a great addition to our team. It's got a great Dark and Fairy type, and it has incredible stats all around. It's also one of my favorite Pokemon from this generation, and I used it so much on my initial team in Sword. Hatena is great too, incredibly balanced other than its incredibly low speed stat. Peepers is at level 30 and has a Brave nature, which isn't the best, but it does boost his physical attack, which will become his best stat once he fully evolves into Grimmsnarl. Plus, he evolves in 2 levels and learns a far superior Dark move than Sucker Punch upon evolving, so I make that my priority and get Morgrem. Before we can take on the next gym though, we need to battle Hop. He changes his team up a bit here and starts off with Cramorant. I switch into Cash and take 2 Plucks but retaliate with a Power Gem as he goes for Dive. I didn't anticipate Cash to live this, so I switch into Candy Floss, but unfortunately, due to Gulp Missile, we get hit and paralyzed since Cramorant had a Pikachu in his mouth. Toxel goes down to Cash's Swift, and Candy Floss takes out Silicobra with a Giga Drain and Drizzile with an Energy Ball. Okay, gym time. We should be fine here. Not only do we have 2 normal types that are immune to ghost moves and have a dark move each, but we also just got Morgrem, which is going to help us out a lot as well. Even if you're doing this challenge in Sword and you're fighting B, you should still be able to easily breeze through her with Snips, Candy Floss, and your Hatena. In fact, you might even have an easier time than I'm about to have. Starting off the battle against Alistair, he leads off with a Galarian Yamask, a ground and ghost type, which easily goes down to an Energy Ball. Out comes Mimikyu, and I decide to switch into Cheekers to set up some stockpiles. Unfortunately though, I forgot that Mimikyu has Baby Doll Eyes, which lowers my attack stat, so as much as I don't want to switch, I really have to. So I switch into Candy Floss and go for 2 Moonblasts to take it out. Next out is Cursula, the regional evolution of Galarian Corsola, and I immediately switch back into Cheekers to try out my same plan. But it doesn't seem like that's going to work out either because I had a curse put on me. I switch into Cash and take it out with a Bite, but not after getting hit by a really powerful Ancient Power. Out comes Gengar, and I decide to keep Cash in to go about my usual plan with Cheekers. Thankfully, I am able to outspeed, but just like I feared, Gengar hits a max Ooze, taking us out and raising his special attack in the process. I can't switch into Peepers, Candy Floss, or Snips because they'll easily go down to Ooze due to their fairy typing. So I switch into Cheekers, Dynamax, and hope that I can live another Ooze so I can use up my Citrus Berry. We live on 30 HP, and the Citrus Berry and Cheek Pouch combo helps us get to a comfortable 112 HP as a Max Darkness just barely takes it out. Gengar decides to go for a Hypnosis though, instead of taking me out with a Venoshock, so Alistair is defeated. Okay, so a lot of wrenches got thrown into my plan there, but it was still pretty easy nonetheless. I actually completely forgot that we have a fight against Beatty right after the gym, but I'm not too worried. Duosion goes down to a Dark Pulse, and Hatchram nearly goes down, but it hits us incredibly hard with a Dazzling Gleam. After a few false surrenders though, she goes down. Next up is Ponyta, and I switch into Cash and go for Bite, which 2-shots it. And finally, out comes Gothorita, which goes down to 2 bites as well. After seeing Beatty get disqualified from the gym challenge, and, we also get a great view of Sonia's southern region, we learn a little bit more about Galar's history and move on to my favorite location in Pokemon Sword and Shield, Ballonlea. Nothing really happens in the Glimwood Tangle on the way there though, except for severe PTSD of watching that 24-hour live stream where all we got confirmation of was Galarian Ponyta, and they never properly announced Impotent. Goddammit, Nintendo, why'd you have to do my boy Rogue like that? First thing I do when I enter Ballonlea though is head straight for the gym in order to trade our Galarian Yamask for a Unnovan one at level 35 named Masky. It's bold-natured, so it boosts its defense stat while lowering its physical attack, which is a perfect nature for a Yamask. And it's also 1 level away from evolving, so I go train him up so that we can get a Cofagrigus before we fight the Fairy Gym. Going into the Fairy Gym has me a bit cautious though. I really don't have anything for Fairy types since they're only weak to Poison and Steel moves. The closest thing I have is teaching Snips Steel Wing, but his physical attack stat is incredibly low, so I'm not even gonna bother with that. But I think we'll be successful here thanks to the quiz mechanic that Opal implements into her gym. For every question you get right, 1 or 2 stats will get raised by 1 stage. But for every question you get wrong, 1 or 2 stats will be lowered by 1 stage. Time to battle Opal, and she starts off with her Galarian Weezing. So I lead off with Masky and go for Will-O-Wisp, and also combo it up with Hex to do the most damage. We answered her first question correctly, and sharply raised our speed as we take out Weezing. Next up was Mawile, and I'm gonna just go for the exact same strategy here, even though Mawile isn't as much of a threat as it used to be 2 generations ago. We answer her next question correctly, which boosts our defense stats, but Togekiss comes out, and there's nothing really stopping me from doing the same strategy, but unfortunately Air Slash flinches us, so we lose Masky. I send out Cash as we get our next quiz question right, which raises our attack stats. However, he took a bit of damage from Air Slash, so I use Swift while Opal sends out her ace, Gigantamax Alchemy. She knocks out Cash with G-Max Finale, which heals her in the process, but I send out Cheekers and Dynamax. I hate the fact that I have to use the same strategy as the other gyms, but if only someone would tell me to not use Dynamaxing for my next challenge of Sword and Shield in the comments. If only. Anyways, Cheekers takes down Alchemy after a few max strikes and a body slam. As we enter Route 7, we have another battle against Hop, and he switches up his team yet again. He starts off with Trevenant, so I switch to Peepers and take it out with a few Dark Pulses and a False Surrender. Next up is Snorlax, and I'm not looking forward to this thing, so I switch into Masky to burn it. He goes for Heavy Slam, but I switch into Cheekers, since he's probably our best bet for defeating this thing in a timely manner. After a few body slams, Snorlax goes down. Next up is Heatmore, but I stay in with Cheekers and paralyze him with a Body Slam, followed by another one to take him out. Boltund is out next, but I still stick with Cheekers, even though Crunch hits pretty hard. Thankfully, our Body Slams hit harder, and he goes down to 2 of them. Finally, out comes Hop's ace, Agent 00 Terrible Starter. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments, and I switch to Candy Floss and take him out with an Energy Ball. Shortly after our battle with Hop, Peepers reaches level 42 and evolves into Grimmsnarl. With this, he learns the Impidimp line's second signature move, Spirit Break, a 75 base power fairy type move that lowers the opponent's special attack, which does make Peepers a lot tankier. I also go to the move relearner and have Peepers remember Power Up Punch, a relatively weak fighting type move that boosts our attack by 1 stage each time we use it. We have some absolute powerhouses on this team right now, and there's still 3 more for us to get. But once we get our next team member, we need to start considering who to take off the team. We finally get to Route 8, and my top priority is finding a shiny stone so we can fully evolve Snips and make him an absolute monster. After evolving and teaching him Aura Sphere and Tri-Attack, I also find a King's Rock for him to help flinch the crap out of enemies. On to Route 9, and there's actually 2 Pokemon here that we need to catch. Vanillish and Snom. Vanillish is for our upcoming trade in Circhester, and Snom is for the final trade of the entire game, although it needs to evolve into Frostmoth, so I make sure to capture it in a luxury ball to increase its base happiness. Once we arrive in Circhester, I head straight for the man behind the food cart in the center of town to trade Vanillish for a sock named Blue Bop at level 37. He's going to be a huge help for us for the remaining gyms, and he also has an adamant nature which is perfect for him, boosting his really high attack stat and lowering his abysmally low special attack stat. Plus, he also has the ability Sturdy, which means as long as he's at full health, he is guaranteed to live a fatal blow. This is the other shield exclusive trade. If you're doing this in Sword, you'll get Throw instead. They're both great fighting types, but Throw is a lot bulkier, whereas Sock is a lot quicker. But with that, it's time to make a very difficult decision. Blue Bop is definitely going to be a go-to member for this team, but who do we get rid of? Well, if you've been paying attention, then there's one team member who doesn't really do as well as their companions, and that's Cash. He really doesn't have the offensive prowess to continue further on this game, and we already have a normal type who's leagues better in practically everything except speed. So, I'm sorry Cash, but you have been voted off the island. Thank you for your contributions to this team and to the adventure. After that not-so-emotional goodbye, I head straight to Hammerlocke and get Evolving Snom out of the way. After taking forever to get Frostmoth, we decide to go to the Ice Gym and take on Melanie, the best Bae of the game, and she ironically starts off with the thing that we just evolved, Frostmoth. So I lead off with Peepers, knowing that it has a ton of special attacks. 1 Spirit Break and a Sucker Punch, and it's down. Next is Galarian Darmanitan, and with Guerrilla Tactics, which is basically a Choice Band as an ability, this thing hits like a locomotive. So I go into Maskey to burn it, but we do get hit with a taunt, so we need to rely on Hex alone. Unfortunately, 2 Icicle Crashes do a bit too much to us, and our Hexes do nothing. I switch into Cheekers, and we actually hit a critical hit Body Slam for the KO. Thank God. Next up is Ice-Cube, and I'm gonna try something risky here. Ice-Cube's ability lets it take at least 1 physical hit without taking any damage. But if it activates, its stats change from being very defensive to very speedy. But if you attack Ice-Cube with a special attack, the effect won't activate. So I go into Snips and Aura Sphere to take it out in a few hits. Last up is her ace, Gigantamax Lapras. Its G-Max move is an ice attack that automatically sets up Aurora Veil, which is basically an ice-type combination of Reflect and Light Screen. But I decide to let Blue Bop take this, since I'm pretty positive he can outspeed. We Dynamax and go for a Max Knuckle in order to boost our attack stat. It does just about half as she goes for a Max Geyser and does way too much damage. But thankfully we're able to take out the Lapras with another Max Knuckle and beat a gym challenge with a strategy that's not relying on Cheekers and Max Guarding. Thank Christ! Soon after defeating Melanie and getting clinical depression from having to move on from the girl of my dreams, we have to battle Hop yet again. He starts off with his newly evolved Dubwool, who goes down to 2 Aura Spheres from Snips. However, in the middle of that, thanks to the King's Rock, we flinched, which activated Dubwool's Steadfast ability, allowing him to outspeed us before going down and hit us with a takedown. Next up is Pincurchin, Hop's newest member, but he just sets up a curse, so we take him down with 2 more Aura Spheres. Next up is Snorlax, and we switch into Blue Bop, but we take him to a sliver of HP with Brick Break, as Hail does the rest. Next up is Corviknight, which is a Steel and Flying type, so I switch into Maskey and burn it with a Will-O-Wisp, and just immediately go for the Hex combo. We don't really have good coverage for this type, so I might need to be updating our movesets soon. Last out is his Abomination of a starter, tell me I'm wrong in the comments, And as always, he would have easily gone down to an energy ball, but I was an idiot and hit Hurricane instead. He hits us with a tearful look, a really stupid move to have as a lizard James Bond, but he was still really easy. After that, we defeat more Team Yellgrunts and upgrade our bike to ride on the water. So I take the opportunity to fly back to Professor Magnolia's house and bike around behind her house to find an Obstagoon, which we're going to need for our upcoming trade. On our way to Spikemuth, we can't enter the town until we beat Marnie again, but she was an easy one-hit sweep. After uncovering the identity of Team Yell, Scooby-Doo style, it's time to go up against the first ever Dark-type gym leader, Piers. But before we actually fight him, if you talk to the guy sitting behind the computer in the stadium, he's actually the next person we can trade with. He'll trade you the Cantonian Mr. Mime that was blocking the path during the gym challenge for an Obstagoon. Mr. Mime is decent all around. A very good special attacker with great special defense and speed, and, you know, it does have a calm nature, which lowers our special attack to raise special defense. It's pretty solid. And it does also have the soundproof ability, which gives it an immunity to all sound-based moves like Screech, Growl, and Snarl. Mimo, who is the Mr. Mime, by the way, could be a really big asset to the team, but it's also a big flaw. The fact that it's a Psychic type is great. Psychic is an incredible offensive type, but it's also the 4th Fairy type that we get in this challenge. And if you're playing this in Sword, you're already going to have another Psychic and Fairy type. Plus, Mr. Mime doesn't even get his regional evolution Mr. Rhyme in this form. So, Mimo, I'm sorry, but you never had a chance. Starting off the fight with Piers, he starts off with Scrafty as I lead off with Candy Floss and easily take him down with a Moonblast after taking a Fake Out. Next up is Malamar, but he actually hangs on with 1 HP from Moonblast, but another takes him out. Next out is his ace, Obstagoon, which is actually the thing that we just traded for Mr. Mime. But has anyone else realized that he never sends this thing out last? Anyway, we take him out with 2 Brick Breaks after him using Obstruct and hitting us with a Shadow Claw. Last up is Skuntank, and I don't really have a lot of coverage for this thing, so I go into Cheekers. He hits us with a Toxic, but we take him out in 2 hits. We start to dive a little more into the actual story of the game, where a lot of Pokemon begin Dynamaxing out of nowhere, but our priority is to move on to Hammerlocke to take down the final gym leader, Raihan. He's by far my favorite gym leader, because he has a weather gimmick for his team. So while he is not entirely dragon types, his team focuses more on weather while having an emphasis on dragon types. I really wish more gym leaders did things like this. He starts off with Gigalith and Flygon in order to set up a sandstorm. I start off with Candy Floss and Peepers and focus on both of his Pokemon at the same time, going for Energy Ball on Gigalith and Spirit Break on Flygon after taking a Steel Wing. Flygon goes down, but Gigalith sets up Stealth Rocks, and out comes Sandaconda. I go for Giga Drain with Candy Floss, but Sandaconda protects itself. A False Surrender finishes off the Gigalith, and now it's time for Raihan's ace, his Gigantamax Duraludon. I'm gonna bank on him attacking Candy Floss, while Peepers goes for the Spirit Break on Duraludon, which fortunately he does. Unfortunately, Duraludon uses Max Steel Spike to raise his defense, as Sandaconda goes for Glare to paralyze Grimmsnarl. I decide to switch into Maskey to see if we can go for the Burn Hex combo, but I try to Sucker Punch the Sandaconda, and it protects again! But thankfully we are able to burn the Duraludon. So I bring out Blue Bop next, and immediately Max Guard to burn off his last turn of Dynamaxing. A Max Knuckle takes out Sandaconda, as another Hex takes out Duraludon. After trekking through Route 10, we're finally able to make it to Winden and get our final team member. There's an artist here who's willing to trade his Duraludon named Linear at level 50 for a Frostmoth. Duraludon, as we know from our recent match with Raihan, is a force to be reckoned with. Incredible stats all around, except for its lackluster special defense. The only problem is that Linear is adamant-natured, which boosts his physical attack and lowers his special attack. The fact that his 2 offensive stats are 30 base points apart really bothers me, but I'm gonna have to deal with it regardless. But this means we have yet another tough decision to make. Who do we leave in the box in order to add Linear to the team? And this was such a difficult choice for me to make, because every team member that we had held their own weight and contributed so much to the team. Aside from Mr. Mime. Granted, you know, I could switch the team members in and out whenever I need them, but I mean, come on. This is a YouTube video. I need the drama in order for you guys to roast me in the comments section. Our best course of action here, I believe, is to box Maskey, our Cofagrigus. As much as it pains me to do that, there's really no benefit to having a Ghost type on our team when we have Grimmsnarl. Before we go to the semifinals, I do a small bit of grinding as we search for some TMs in order to give ourselves more coverage. Here's everybody's levels and movesets. I think for where we are, we'll be okay. But Leon's ace is a whopping 10 levels above us, and I'm kind of terrified to go up against him. But that's not even my biggest worry. We'll get to that in a little bit. The start of the semifinals begins with our final match against Marnie. Her Lightbird and Scrafty goes down to 1 Brick Break and Moonblast, and next up is Toxicroak. I switch into Linear and take it down with 2 Stomping Tantrums after getting confused by Swagger. I decide to withdraw Linear and go for Snips because I want to save him for Marnie's ace. Snips takes down Toxicroak with an Air Slash as Blue Bop learns Close Combat, and we can finally get rid of Low Sweep, which we have never used. After a Spark, Morpeko goes down to a Spirit Break, and last up is Marnie's ace, Gigantamax Grimmsnarl. I'm hoping that Linear can 1. Outspeed, and 2. Survive a few hits and knock him out with some max Steel Spikes. Steel Spike just barely gave us the knockout again. Can somebody type in the comment section how many times we've almost killed somebody because we just barely knocked them out? I'm so curious as to how many times that's happened. But a second Steel Spike took him out, moving us on to the next match against Hop. Hop starts off with his Dub Wool as always, so I lead off with Snips, since Aurasphere tears right through it and it goes down in 2 hits. Next up is Pincurchin, so I go into Cheekers and go for Stomping Tantrum. I replaced Swallow for this move, but I might get rid of Bite to relearn Swallow. There's a fun combo that Cheekers can do, where you can try to Swallow, take that in whatever context you'd like, and then go for a Stomping Tantrum to double its attack power. Snorlax is up next, but it easily falls to Blue Bop's Close Combat. And then out comes Corviknight, but my best answer that I have for him right now is Peepers with Fire Punch. He goes for Steel Wing, which hurts pretty bad, but we do hit a critical Fire Punch and take him out with a Sucker Punch afterward. Last out is his Inteleon, and honestly, too bad it's not a Gigantamax Inteleon, because I actually like Gigantamax Inteleon the most out of the 3 Galarian starter Gigantamax forms. But he easily goes down to Candy Floss's Max Overgrowth, allowing us to move on to the finals round. Might I add, I love this character development for Hop. Notice the camera panning behind him as he stomps the ground and waves his fist in defeat. You took away his chance to battle his brother. That alone was so emotional and really made me appreciate Hop as a rival. Right after that, though, we have to go search for Leon at Rose Tower. Nothing really happens here until the big fight against Oleana, of all people, and we're greeted with one of the best songs in the game. What a bop! Oleana starts off with Frostlass, so I start off with Peepers, and take her down with 2 false surrenders after getting burned. Next up is Salazzle, so I send out Linear and go for a Stomping Tantrum, as Incinerate does a truckload to us for a base 50 power fire move. Next up is Milotic, so I switch into Candy Floss to hit it with a few energy balls, as she sends out Serena. So I switch into Snips and go for Air Slash to take it easily down. Last out is her ace, Gigantamax Garbodor, which I always thought was a hysterical Pokemon to add to her repertoire, since she has all these other Pokemon that are very elegant looking. I think it's supposed to symbolize the pretty on the outside, ugly on the inside motif, and it suits Oleana so well. I switch into Cheekers, Dynamax, and go for the Max Quake. We do a ton as her Max Quake does nothing. And I gotta admit, I have really underestimated Cheekers. He has been way too good for this playthrough, and I thought that he was going to be terrible. It's finally time for the finals in our league challenge, and first up is Beatty, who actually interrupts the whole thing in order to challenge us as the next Fairy-type gym leader. I know his ace is a Gigantamax Hatterene, so I want to make sure I keep Duraludon healthy by that point. So I start off with Peepers as he starts off with Mawile. It's a bit risky here since he has Play Rough, but Fire Punch takes it out thanks to a critical hit. Gardevoir is up next, so I do decide to actually switch into Linear here and go for a Flash Cannon. Surprisingly, we outspeed, but we barely miss the KO again, as she hits us with a Dazzling Gleam, which takes us to below half, and this was exactly what I was worried about. I don't know if Linear will be able to survive a hit from Hatterene now. Up next is Galarian Rapidash, so I switch into Cheekers, and we take it out with 2 Body Slams. And then finally is Gigantamax Hatterene. I switch back into linear and immediately go for a Steel Spike. I know we're guaranteed to attack first since Hatterene is incredibly slow, but I'm hoping that we can take it out in one hit. But like Gardevoir, we just barely missed the KO as she takes us out with a Max Flare. We're gonna be okay though, because since she's at low health, I can go into Peepers and take her out with a Sucker Punch. The finals actually start now, and our first battle is against Nessa. Her Golisopod and Seaking are one-shots thanks to a critical Air Slash and Energy Ball. And then up next is Pelipper, so I switch into Snips to go for the Ancient Power as he sets up a Drizzle. Now, funny story, as a kid I never read Pelipper correctly, so I always called him Pleeper, and I'm pretty sure I had an email address that was like Pleeper91 or something like that. Anyway, Ancient Power takes out Pelipper thanks to a critical hit, and I switch into Candy Floss for Barraskewda. I go for a Giga Drain to heal all my health after he hits us with an Ice Fang, and finally out comes her ace, Dreadnought, who can now Gigantamax. Candy Floss, I know that you have had a vengeance festering in you for so long, a grudge that you have been bearing against this snapping turtle that somehow outsped you and took you down. It is time for your revenge! Go, Candy Floss, lay waste to his existence! We're not making the same mistake as last time. Okay, we got this! Max Overgrowth takes out the Dreadnought, and we can move on to the next round against Alistair. Alistair has a drastically different team the second time around, but the entire battle was just a one-shot sweep with Peepers. His Gigantamax Gengar did hit us with a Max Ooze that left us at 48 HP, but a Max Darkness took him out easily. Finally, we're up against Raihan, and his team is also completely different this time around. He starts off with a Torkoal, so I start off with Cheekers and take it out with a few Stomping Tantrums. Cheekers did fall asleep though due to Yawn, so he's not going to be much use to us for the rest of the battle. Next out is Turtonator, so I switch into Snips and go for a few Ancient Powers to take him out. Goodra and Flygon are both one-shots with Peeper's Spirit Break, as Raihan sends out Duraludon and Gigantamaxes. I switch into Blue Bop, and we both exchange Max Knuckles until we can get the KO. We can finally move on to fight Leon and end this challenge. Or so you'd think. Here's where the story really comes full throttle at you. So our fight against Leon needs to be put on hold for a little bit. We need to find Zacian and Zamazenta to help prevent the Darkest Day, but first we need to take down Chairman Rose. Before doing so, I finally go and have Cheekers remember Swallow so we can try out that Stomping Tantrum combo. Chairman Rose starts off with Escavalier, so I start off with Peepers and take him out with a Fire Punch as he sends out Berserker. But he just goes down to one Swallow Stomping Tantrum combo. Ferrothorn also goes down to a Fire Punch, but Klinklang nearly takes out Peepers with a Gear Grind, so I switch into Linear and take it out with a Stomping Tantrum. Finally, out comes Rose's ace, his Gigantamax Copperajah. He hits Blue Bop with a powerful Max Mindstorm, but two Max Knuckles take him out, and we can move on to fighting the antagonistic legendary, if you will, Eternatus. Eternatus is pretty tough. He's got a lot of powerful moves and has great coverage, but I think my best course of action here is to go for Cheekers and do the Stomping Tantrum combo. He hits us with a Flamethrower and Cross Poison, but Stomping Tantrum does a truckload to him. We go down to a Dynamax Cannon though, and honestly my only other answer to Eternatus is Linear, but even he went down to a Dragon Pulse. I switch into Snips, but even he isn't fast enough to outspeed Eternatus. Thankfully, he does go for Flamethrower though, so I can take him out with an Air Slash. Now, we're up against Eternamax Eternatus, and this plays out just like a max raid battle. But this one's going to take a long time because of how busted Eternatus is in this form. To put things into perspective, Eternamax Eternatus has a base stat total of 1,125. So his stats are pretty damn high. But we have Zacian and Zamazenta helping us out now, so I'm hoping that we don't lose too many team members. Zacian gives us all an attack raise with Howl, while Zamazenta sets up a Light Screen. Hop's Dubwool goes for a double edge, but it does absolutely nothing. And the legendary wolves each go for their signature moves, and they're going to be the reason we make it out of this fight alive, honestly, because they do double damage to Dynamaxed Pokemon. Zamazenta takes a massive Max Flare, as our Stomping Tantrum does quite a bit to Eternatus. Hop's Dubwool goes down to a Max Wormwind, which drops our attack stats, but then Eternatus resets our stat changes. Thankfully, after a few turns, Cheekers barely hangs on from a Max Wormwind to take out Eternatus with a Body Slam. That was wild, but we've got a championship to win. Leon is insanely tough, and He's said to be one of the toughest champions in the franchise. Understandably so. His starting Pokemon is Aegislash, and really my team is not fit to fight this thing at all. My best course of action is to teach Bluebop Fire Punch, and hope that Aegislash starts off with a King Shield, so that I can set up with a Bulk Up. Thankfully that's exactly what happens, and we almost take him down with a Fire Punch, as he hits us with a Shadow Ball. I risk going for the Fire Punch again, fearing that he might King Shield, but he doesn't. Out next is Haxorus, so I send out Candy Floss to Moonblast him, since I'm confident in our ability to outspeed him. But again, we just barely miss the KO as he takes us out with a Poison Jab. That's not good. Candy Floss was my answer to his Seismitoad. I decide to switch into Snips as Leon uses a Full Restore, but we miss the Air Slash as Leon demolishes us with Iron Tails. I was feeling pretty bad about being overleveled by this point, but now I do not feel bad at all. This is tough. I switch into Peepers to take him out with some Sucker Punches, and then out comes Cinderace, which was the Score Bunny that we didn't choose at the beginning of the game. He doesn't have a lot of great moves, so I decide to switch into Cheekers to go for the Striking Tantrum combo, as he does hit pretty hard with Acrobatics. Tantrum barely misses the KO though, again, but we're able to actually avoid his Pyro Ball and take him out with a Body Slam. Seismitoad is out, but he hits us with a Toxic as we hit him with a Body Slam. I was really banking on paralyzing him, but no dice. We went down to an Earthquake. I switch into Peepers to try and take it out with a Sucker Punch, but it fails because he went for Toxic again. We take a lot of damage from Earthquake, but we take him out with another Sucker Punch. Dragapult is out next, but thankfully it goes down one shot to a Sucker Punch, as Peepers goes down to Poison. I send out Linear to hit Leon's ace, Gigantamax Charizard, with a Max Rockfall. This needs to knock him out or else we're done for. He's faster, which doesn't make me very confident, and I'm pretty sure his Max Wildfire will take us out due to our abysmal special defense. Thankfully, we do live on 44 HP, as Rockfall barely misses the KO again! Okay, we're getting super close there, so let me try leveling up a little bit with some rare candies that I have lying around and see if that makes a difference. Also, since Linear has pretty awful special defense, I remembered to go to the Lake of Outrage in the wild area to pick up the Assault Vest, an item that boosts our special defense by half while limiting ourselves to only using attacking moves, no status moves. I also give Candy Floss the Pixie Plate to boost its fairy type moves, and I give Cheekers a Citrus Berry. Not too sure why I haven't been doing that the entire adventure, but okay! Aegislash actually doesn't go for a King's Shield this turn, but it hits us with a Flash Cannon. But thankfully, we do outspeed and hit with a Fire Punch as Haxorus comes out. I go back into Candy Floss, and thanks to the Pixie Plate, we are able to take it out in one hit. We're already looking so much better in this fight. Next up is Cinderace, so I switch into Cheekers and use the Stomping Tantrum combo. His Acrobatics hurt a bit, but we do heal up a considerable amount, thanks to the Citrus Berry and Cheek Pouch combo. What surprised me, though, is that Stomping Tantrum actually took out Cinderace in one hit. It wasn't even a critical. It must have been a higher damage roll from last time. Seismitoad goes down to one Energy Ball, and Dragapult is out next. But as we know, he goes down to a Sucker Punch in one hit, so out comes Charizard. I switch into Linear again, Assault Vest in tow, and we go for a Rockfall. We take a bunch of damage from a critical Wildfire, but that one level did in fact help, as Rockfall gets the knockout. We are officially the champions of the Galar region, but don't misunderstand. We are far from over. We still have the toughest rival battle to do. I'm not going to bore you with all the lackluster after-game story, so let's talk about why Hop is going to be incredibly difficult. It's all because of Zacian, the legendary. Zacian, in her crowned form, yes, Zacian is a girl, it does say in Zamazenda's Pokedex entry that Zacian is considered his sister, has base 170 attack, 115 defenses, and 148 speed. Those are some pretty high stats, but what makes it worse is Zacian's ability Intrepid Sword, which raises her attack stat by 1 whenever she enters battle. So she's going to be hitting me like a locomotive, and I don't think I have any answers to her. With Crunch, Behemoth Blade, Wild Charge, and Close Combat, Zacian practically has a move for every member of my team. Hop starts off with his Dubwool, so I use Snips to hit him with an Aura Sphere. We flinch him, but that causes his Steadfast to activate again, allowing him to crit me with a Double Edge. He gets taken out in the process, but Snips is hurt pretty bad. Inteleon, Pincursion, and Snorlax all go down to 1 Energy Ball, Stomping Tantrum combo, and Close Combat respectively, and Hop's penultimate Pokemon is his Corviknight. So I go into Peepers to hopefully take it out with a few Fire Punches. He swaggers us, but I break through it and take him out in 1 hit. Finally, out comes Zacian. I decide to go into Blue Bop and go for the Close Combat, since I believe that that will do the most damage overall, but I'm going to need a critical hit to take her out in 1 hit. Otherwise, she just sweeps my whole team. I switched into Linear after Blue Bop fell, since I gave him a Focus Sash and went for a Flash Cannon. Sadly, it did not take out Zacian, but I do have a plan. Since she used Close Combat, that lowers both of her defense stats, so I'm going to really bank on Sucker Punch from Peepers to take it out. We go for it, and Zacian falls, winning us the run. Guys, that run was so much fun. It was really tough in the beginning, but it was really easy throughout, actually, until we got to those last 2 big battles. Those were incredibly tough to manage. But honestly, I'm glad that I did that grinding before the semifinals, because I definitely would not have succeeded in these fights if I hadn't. I was also blessed with some really powerful teammates too. I really did not expect Greedent to be as good as he was. I was genuinely surprised at how much of a team player he turned out to be. And I had anticipated that he was the worst, and I was going to put him in the box after getting Blue Bob. Every member of this team was so critical to our success, and each one played such a pivotal role in some way, shape, or form in our toughest fights. Except for Maimon. He did nothing. It sucks that we weren't able to use all of them in one big team, but I'm glad that we had the team we did. I strongly recommend you guys try out this challenge though, whether you're a Pokemon Challenge veteran or looking for one to get started with. It was a ton of fun to play and strategize around, and it definitely made playing through Pokemon Shield that much more enjoyable for me. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button down below, comment on some runs that you'd like to see me do. Any game is up for a challenge run. I'm planning on doing a Fire Emblem Awakening challenge shortly after this. We'll see how long this video takes to get done though. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell to get updated on whenever I upload a new video, whether it be a challenge run, a music education video, a breakdown of my band's new releases. I also do have a brand new Discord server, link is in the description, and be sure to check out my Twitch channel as well. Link to that is in the description as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.